Kia ora, salam, namaste. Welcome to Chutney Sandwich, an arts and culture podcast out of Aotearoa, New Zealand, in which we talk to South Asian creatives from across the world. I am Sapna Saman, and in today's episode, episode 2, I talk to the young, emerging, and very talented local artist Sahana Rehman.
We are here today with Sahana Rehman at the Glen Eden Library doing her Naqshi Kotha workshop. This is an unusual episode where we're going on site with Sahana and looking at her work and talking at the same time. There's a group of people working collectively on embroidering on big pieces of cloth, telling their own stories. So you tell me what Naqshi Kotha is.
So Naqshi Kotha is a Bengali tradition practiced amongst Bengali women in West Bengal and Bangladesh. And they come together, the women come together and they embroider communally on one piece of fabric. And basically they do embroider their narratives, their daily lives, motifs, symbols, and these pieces are used for like saris or tapestries, and they sell it amongst them, their groups, and their people as well. It's a very intricate process as well, and it takes quite like months to years as well.
And what gave you the idea to do Naqshi Kotha? Because it's a very unique idea. Tell us about the birth of Naqshi Kotha.
So I discovered Naqshi Kotha in the pandemic during my degree, when I was doing my fine arts degree at Massey, and I wanted to know more about my art, like traditions and my heritage. So I'm half Bangladeshi, half Sri Lankan Tamil, and Naqshi Kotha stood out for me. And because it was a pandemic, it was like I had a lot of time on my hands, so I had lots of time to like embroider and learn this tradition. And coming out of the pandemic, I noticed that it was very hard to like socialize again, and just like in general, society didn't want to. Like it was very awkward. So I held my first Naqshi Kotha workshop with a small group of friends, and through that workshop, we did this. Like I taught them how to embroider, and I asked them a few questions, like just like so it becomes like a vulnerable space. And through that workshop, we like had like vulnerable conversations with each other. Like someone cried, someone laughed, like it was like a full range of emotions in there, and I thought I wanted to continue this practice outside of just my groups of friends. I think it's important to be together and like as collectives, especially after the pandemic. I missed that community space, and this way was like a gentle way of showing community how to get together again.
Tell me, is it Naqshi Kotha or Katha?
So Naqshi is embroidery, like embroidered, and then Katha is
Story.
The Katha is the story. But I call it Naqshi Kotha. So Kotha is like a twist, my own twist, and then it means to talk in Bangla. So embroidered talk, yeah.
Oh, Kotha means dog. And
Yes.
look at me, I'm assuming Kotha is Katha, but in the Bengali pronunciation. Okay, so this is really fascinating that these pieces of cloths have been embroidered upon before by other groups.
Yes.
And therefore you have somebody who's written in Gujarati
Yeah.
a word called Krupali.
Yeah.
And because I can read Gujarati.
Oh, yeah.
There's some mirror work there. There's a child here today who's embroidering a face.
Yes.
And now his mum is doing it for him. But that's okay. He's probably wandered off somewhere, which is what children do.
Yes, I do.
And you have children at these workshops.
Yes, I do. Sometimes not not encouraged because of the needles, but when there's a supervisor, it's okay. And there's like you'll see some pieces are obviously done by children, which is very cute.
Can you show me one piece
Yeah,
that's been done by a child?
It's a little Pikachu. It's done a little bit by a kid.
Oh, there is a Pikachu there. Wow. It's wonderful. The Pikachu is pretty cool. It's not neat, but it's cool.
It's cool.
Because again, when we're talking about embroidery and we talk about South Asian cultures, where we look to be the best in everything, the model minority kind of stuff. And so we want to have neat embroidery, right?
Yeah.
This isn't that, but what? I mean, the child must have had so much fun.
Yeah, definitely. They stayed the whole time and they were very happy, eating all the snacks. Keep going, yeah.
Yeah, well, I grew up in India and we had embroidery compulsory in schools. I don't know if anybody over here grew up in India or knows about it.
Even I.
Oh, here we have a participant. Yeah, tell me.
I grew up in a boarding, and one of our subjects was embroidery and like stitching tea cozies and I don't know, placemats, lots of stuff. Yeah.
I did that too.
Yeah.
The tea cozies.
Yeah.
You were graded for it at the end of the term,
Yes.
right?
Yes, yeah.
And I see you're doing a lotus with herringbone stitch.
Yeah.
Did you already know the stitches? Obviously, I'm assuming this again because
yes.
you did it at school.
Yes. So I go for a class over here, and then it all came back as soon as I started stitching, because it was so many years, 40 years or something, since I had started.
Did you do these, Sahana?
Yes,
There's a piece of cloth with basic embroidery stuff, so tell us something about that.
Yeah, so I did all the basic embroidery stitches that I usually use in my own work. So we got the running stitch, chain stitch back, stem, blanket, French knot, lazy daisy, woven wheel, feather, satin and cross. I usually teach people the running and back stitch because they're the most simple ones. But if people want to learn the other ones, I ask them if they want to. I just like having something visual because I'm a visual learner, so I put that around and people seem to like. Some people even just like see it and know what to do, so they're very helpful for the participants. Yeah.
I know all of these stitches. Oh my gosh.
Are you getting more flashbacks?
Lots of flashback. I actually love the idea of embroidery.
Yeah.
It's just time and patience, eh?
Yeah.
And you find that meditative?
Oh yeah, for sure. I like it helped me during the pandemic.
I'm looking at it while talking to Sahana. I'm looking at, there's some cherry blossom.
Yes, yeah.
Which is very beautiful.
Yeah.
And what's that? There's some cartoon figure
Oh
there.
yeah, the cartoon. I don't know I think they were supposed to do Hello Kitty and then that turned into that.
It's just a circle with grey satin stitch and beaded eyes and the Hello Kitty bow. But Hello Kitty doesn't have a mouth, so there's no mouth on that. So it could be a Hello Kitty.
Yeah.
Except the shape of the face is not a kitty face.
No.
That's all. And have people come back for these?
Yes, so even today these two have, 1, 2, 3 have come back. Yes, they keep coming back because I guess they like doing it. It's very therapeutic. You get to meet other people as well.
So this is the mum who is doing her child's embroidery for him? Why have you come back?
I've come back because it was my first time learning embroidery the last time. So this time I'm coming back because I want to keep practicing, and I feel like it's easier with help and support from Sahana to do it together as a group. Yeah.
And have you gone back home by yourself, tried any embroidery?
Yes, I have. I went to Kmart and got some needles and thread, and I did embroidery of my of the Chinese language. That's one of my native mother tongues. Yeah, I'm Thai as well, so I tried to embroider the Thai letters as well.
And have you been inspired to examine, your cultural embroideries or practices?
Yes, I have. So for this time, I'm doing a flower Ixora pattern based on my tattoo. So this is quite a common motif in Thai textiles and Thai paintings. Yeah, and you can see them on the temples. Yeah, for the Ixora flowers, they have like a sweet nectar in the middle, and you can pull them out. And I used to suck on them when I was a kid, that nectar. Yeah.
So you're actually gathering your memories in your embroidery.
Yes, I am. It is a beautiful way to honor that memory for me. Yeah.
You are listening to Chutney Sandwich, an arts and culture podcast out of Aotearoa, New Zealand, in which we korero with South Asian creatives from across the world. I am Sapna Samant and I am talking to Sahana Rehman.
This is the second part of the podcast episode with Sahana Rehman. She has graciously invited me to her workspace, which doubles up as her home. Tell us what you're working on, because this is a long piece of fabric, which is the canvas is massive rectangular canvas. She started to paint and she's gradually moving towards the right of this rolled up piece of fabric. And we'll start from the beginning. What is this style of painting?
So I'm inspired by miniature painting, like the Mughal style. And I put my own twist to it, like my own contemporary twist to it. And then I add like surrealism as well. Like the thoughts in my brain, I could put it into Mughal style, but it's more complicated than that, and that's why I add a touch of surrealism.
Right at the top, or on the left-hand side, which is the beginning of this painting, I can see hills and mountains. There is a tower in the background, lots of clouds, a body of water that flows through and goes into a heavenly image in the middle of the painting. There are palm trees and there is a woman sitting on a lotus wearing a dupatta on her forehead and a long skirt with a long blouse. Who is this?
It is what I consider myself, I guess my higher self, looking back onto my life. I guess in a lot of Mughal like miniature paintings, there's the lotus, like, and it's like depicted with gods and like higher deities. So that's why I've got myself on a lotus. And then I've got a harakeke in the back. That's a very prominent symbol in my paintings because I grew up like around the Waita around harakeke. It was part of the school I went to. That we talked about it, and yeah, it's just a very prominent motif.
And you were born in New Zealand, Aotearoa.
Yes.
In Poneke.
Yes.
Whanganui Atara, Wellington.
In the heart of Newlands. Yeah. So this is what I've depicted. There's lots of hills in Newlands, and then this is Mount Koko. And yeah, it's got like that tower there. So, and it's a very misty, like foggy area. So that's why there's lots of like mist and clouds and fog. And it's also a body of water there as well.
Before we move towards the ride, I just want to describe your higher self, who is the ghagra that she's wearing, or the long skirt that she's wearing, has very fine, detailed design. So it's a yellow ghagra with blue pattern on it. What is that pattern?
I just like take inspiration from multiple like Mughal style paintings. So this is just inspiration from that. There's no deeper meaning or anything. The colors though, I think this is what I imagine my higher self, like the colors from that higher self would wear, like yellow and orange and like those brighter colors, just like depicting the sun. And I guess that contrast of yellow and blue is why the pattern is blue.
And this higher self is moving on to the next bit, which is a root with a heart in it, and multiple blood vessels from that heart. Yes. Well, it's not an anatomical depiction.
No, it is surrealism, yes.
As it should be.
Yeah.
And it's got multiple blood vessels moving up towards ground level.
Yes, so this is still a work in progress, but I'm going to be adding like flowers coming up from this. And it just depicts that time in my life where there was a lot of heartbreak, and I guess like these roots are just like me growing. I mean, like just growing as a person, like growing from my heartbreak. And the flowers are going to be at the end of my painting where I'm holding it behind my back and my partner's in front of me. So just representing queerness and like me being healed from the heartbreak.
What was the heartbreak about, if I can ask?
I guess my first partner who's there.
That's the next bit of painting, which is a waterfall, cascading waterfall.
Yes.
And a person in front of the waterfall in the body of water.
Yes, so this depicts my sexual awakening, I guess. And this is actually a real waterfall from Newlands, part of Newlands. And yeah, it's depicting my sexual awakening. There's like a female figure right here. There's like the female body here, the thighs, and then the waterfall in the middle. And then, yeah, that basically just describes the first part of my queerness.
So you are Muslim and queer.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people who talk about it openly.
No. For a reason.
For a reason. And you have yet to come out. But technically, we're talking on this podcast.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will be listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
And they will now know.
Yeah.
So what is the tension over there of being Muslim and queer and, you know, South Asians, the cultural issue of not being able to come out easily?
I guess it's still very taboo to be queer and Muslim. It's either you can be either Muslim or queer. You can't be both. So that's why I haven't been really out about it, because it's very controversial. It is basically like a sin. It's deemed as a sin. And the complexities of that is not talked about in our community, and the history about it. Like, we've always been queer and Muslim. Like, there's been many people in throughout history that are, but I guess we refuse to talk about it.
So it's a religious thing.
Yes.
And is it said officially that you shouldn't be queer?
It's still debated. Like, I guess there's this verse in the Quran that says we have made you in pairs, and it doesn't say any sexuality. They don't say any gender. That also gives me hope that, like, God is all loving and everything. Yeah.
God is loving.
Yeah.
So would you like to have more open conversations about it?
For sure, I definitely want to. Like, it's still a taboo thing. There was a queer imam, openly queer imam, that recently got assassinated in South Africa. And today's day and age, it's still a thing that, like, we're not seen as human, as people, when we are. Like, that should be an afterthought, basically. They should see us as human first and then queerness. Yeah.
And this painting that you're doing is a way of you publicly coming out.
It's, like, very subtly, but it's there.
Because it's hard to tell from the person in front of the waterfall in this painting. We can just about see the profile. So it's really hard to tell, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you wanted it?
Yeah, I want it to be very subtle, and I feel like only queer people would understand what's going on. That's how I want it to feel like. People who understand me would understand the painting. Yeah.
And then we are moving on past the waterfall to a picket fence.
Yes.
With the garden, picket fenced garden with sunflowers, tulips.
Roses and peonies.
And there's a person in front of the gate in dungarees or overalls holding a sunflower.
So this part represents me and my grandmother figure. So when my mum came to Aotearoa, she had an English teacher. Her name was Rowena. And at the same time, my mum was pregnant with me. And yeah, Rowena was like, I want to be her grandmother when she's born. So she's been my grandmother figure ever since. We'll do everything together. Like, we'd celebrate birthdays, do like all the tourist attractions, everything. She was basically my grandmother figure. And she was the only person in my life who encouraged me to do art, even my shitty art as a child. She was like, this should belong in galleries. And she always took me to exhibitions and encouraged that, like, creative lifestyle in me. She would take me to, like, ballet as well. Just a lot of things she's taught me. And so, yeah, that represents this. She liked flowers a lot. Her favorite color was yellow. So I've got a few she liked yellow tulips. Her backyard had, like, really dark roses, and then peonies as well. And then the sunflowers are like a little, like, story behind it. She used to send me, like, envelopes of, like, letters to me on my birthdays and whatever. But this one birthday, she sent me a cutout of a newspaper, and it talked about this really huge, this sunflower that grew really, like, long. and she also gave me a little bit of sunflower seeds in the envelope and said happy birthday and gave it to me. And she was like, in the letter she said, I hope you grow like a really long sunflower as well. So
That's lovely.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
So the body of water that I spoke about previously goes towards the heavens,
Yes.
and Rowena is an angel looking over you,
Yes.
or looking over this painting,
Yeah.
which is the story of your life.
Yeah.
That's just really beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's also a road going from the picket fenced garden towards a mountain, and there's twisted turning roads in all over Aotearoa,
Yeah.
even in the cities.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I guess the waterfall, like it ends at the clouds and then the road ends here, because this part of my life, I guess this part of my life ends. Like this was the happiest moment and it ends as happy. And then the next part's like dark, so I wanted to like stop here. This is my childhood, like my family car, so I made sure like that it like ends to... I'm yet to like put something here where it's like bright.
That's on top of the mountain, because if you know the suburb of Newlands in Wellington,
Yeah.
it's a hilly suburb, and the roads are like I described, twisting, turning roads.
Exactly.
Okay, and then we go from there to a motorway or state highway,
Yes.
and it's sort of incomplete. Well, there's a long roll of fabric
Yeah.
still, canvas still to be painted on. But are you okay to share the dark part of
Yeah,
your
sure.
life?
So what I'm about to paint is this motorway goes into it goes into the dark part of my life. I put motorway because that's how fast it felt. Like it felt like a rush. That whole part of my life just felt like a rush. So that's why I went from slow, like waterfall, river to like slow up to the hill, and then it just goes rush, yeah. And then underneath the bridge, I'm going to be painting like really dark, surrealist, like people around a fire, and like just like demonic kind of surrealist approach to the under this motorway. The tunnel will be there. And these are buildings that are next, like showing the urban lifestyle of that area, because I'm going to be painting my homelessness, and basically my homelessness was around the city, so that's what I'm painting. And then I'm doing a little bit of history here, where that area, so that during that time they split a cemetery into two to put this motorway in, so I'm going to do cemetery like on both sides to showcase that.
Your homelessness
Yeah.
is a big story.
Yes.
The dark part of your life.
Yes.
And so you experienced and witnessed multiple things that have affected your life.
Yeah.
Lots of teaching.
Yeah.
Lots of learning. So are you happy to talk about that
Sure, yeah.
and share with us?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So I was 18 in the middle of grieving my grandmother Rowena and just grieving my parents' divorce. I guess my mother was also in a space where she couldn't handle like a teen, like a rebellious teen who wanted to, who was living a double life but didn't want to. She didn't have the means to like help me, and I guess we had a lot of fights, and she kicked me out eventually. So I was on the streets for 3-4 months, and yeah, it was very dark. It was just like me, like first of all, it was me couch surfing with all my high school friends, and then like as each high school friend I couch surfed, I lost a friend because I was staying at theirs for too long, and it just like caused issues. I went to the next house, and that's how I lost all my friends. So I was left all alone on the streets. I would like spend all-nighters at Macca's, and I was sleeping, like it's the safest place for me was like school playgrounds, like that area. And then also I would like reach out to Evolve Youth Service for like help with toiletries and like food and everything. Yeah, it was a lot of things there.
I'm sorry to hear that. That must have been very, very tough.
Yeah.
I worked as a GP in Porirua. So I am aware of Evolve,
Yeah.
which is on Cuba Street.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good service, youth-oriented service that looks at youth health, mental health,
Yeah.
and physical health, and does a lot of good work. So there was an essential support for young people such as yourself at that time. And how did you come out of that? I mean, I'm not trying to minimize this because it's such a tough time.
Yeah.
But how did you manage to come out of that?
So art, I think, was the main factor that made me come out of it. I had a little book where I did a lot of my art.
And that was a constant with you.
Yeah, it's always been a constant in my life. It's always been my like savior, basically. So yeah, I had this little book, and that inspired me to like do work for other youth. Like I worked at, well, not worked, but volunteered with Challenge 2000. It's a place for other youth that have been like kicked out and or rebellious teens and stuff like that. So I helped them like cook and like get donations, like help them sort it out. That also inspired me to like get it together. I was also dealing with like alcoholism, addictions, and
In others or yourself?
myself. Yeah. So this helped me to like get out of that headspace. Evolve Youth Service also helped me get out of that headspace of like my social worker. She would help me find a place. Like there was this place in the heart of Poneke where I could go, and there was like a studio space for like a public studio space where you can do art. That also helped me like keep it together. And then eventually my dad took me in, and I lived with him. And it was also near Massey, and I guess me doing lots of art helped me, like inspired me to just like go for it and just do fine arts as a degree. And I just applied. I didn't have any like NCA level 3 or anything like that, like any credits. So I just went there with my folder that I've been working on when I was homeless, went into Massey, and they just like let me in. Which was, a very, very like big moment for me. Yeah.
So Massey is Massey University in
Yes.
Wellington, Poneke, Wellington, and NCEA is one of those high school exams that teens in Aotearoa, New Zealand have to sit in order to be able to graduate school and go on to university if they wish to.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I guess it didn't work for me, that type of learning. I was more of a creative person, and that logical stuff wasn't happening for me. I don't know. But also I just had issues with my level 3 papers. They like lost it, and they lost my papers, and I couldn't get those credits back. So I had that whole issue and that whole drama with them, but it's okay. I got into university. It's okay, yeah.
So were you at school when you were homeless?
No, I was out. I just finished, well, not finished, but I gapped out of architectural technology. So I was studying that at Welltech. Just wasn't for me. It wasn't serving me. Also, just all the divorce and like the Rowena passing away, it was just not happening.
It's also such a South Asian thing, isn't it? We all have to do degrees and courses that enable us to earn money.
Yeah. I guess architecture was like the next best thing to art. My parents liked it, and it gave me a little bit of creativity, but it was just too tedious for me. I like being out there and just like going wild with paint, and just those tedious lines. Just I didn't like it at all. Yeah.
And this painting is still going to continue, and we are just going to leave talking about the painting right where it is sort of in the middle of it, because this painting is going to be exhibited at an art gallery.
It will be exhibited at Studio One Toitu May 7th. It's the opening night, and then it will be open for a month. Yeah, I'm very excited.
And you have been commissioned for that?
I applied, so you can apply to exhibit, and I just applied, and I got in, I guess. Yeah.
That's just great. So we are telling our life story through a painting, and those who can guess the queerness, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
How will people understand this dark part of your life, which is not an experience that is not well known to be prevalent in the South Asian communities? And if it is, we don't really talk about it, which is unfortunate. So, how will people be able to recognize that or understand that?
Well, I will depict myself in it, so they will see a brown person who is a teen going through that part of life. It will show very dark scenes, so it will be obvious that it's me experiencing that, and that's, I guess, how it's going to be shown.
So, you are being really vulnerable and candid at the same time.
Yes.
That's an important thing for your art and for yourself.
Yes, I've been keeping this in for a long time, and I guess it was just time to just let it all out, I guess. I'm like, I guess you can say I'm sick of like keeping this all in, and I feel like I need to be heard, and this needs to be talked about. There's only so much someone can handle, you know, so, and I am hoping like if I put this out there, I feel like if other people reach out, they'll be perfect. I want people to reach out and talk about their experiences, and make sure we like create safer spaces as well for people that are vulnerable as well. Yeah.
And that is the important thing for us in our wider South Asian community, is that we don't talk about the difficult things, or that this is possible and can happen to anybody. And that we have a huge part of our community who are working class, or who are, probably work on minimum wage, multiple language barriers, cultural issues where people will come over here, their children understand gender and sexuality, mental health in different ways that are different to what their parents know and understand. But they don't have the peers or the support to be able to discuss these things. And we should be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's what I ultimately want for future generations, where both parent and child can create safer spaces and don't have to go through what I went through. If it was talked about, if people are comfortable talking about it, there wouldn't be such a need for like going through all this traumatic stuff, and they could have like a brighter future.
This is the conversation in Sahana's lovely little studio turned home space. And this is episode 2 of Chutney Sandwich, where we do all kinds of fun stuff, talking to South Asian creatives, and where hopefully I have created a safe space where they can discuss issues that bother them and share with the community. So thank you, Sahana.
This is Chutney Sandwich, an infrequent arts and culture podcast out of Aotearoa, New Zealand, in which we talk to South Asian creatives from across the world. I am Sapna Samant, and until next time, ka kite.